All right, welcome to another episode of Talking Metaverse. I'm Tan, and I'm joined right now by Matthew Bester from Leica Geosystems. How's it going, Matthew?
Yeah, good in yourself, Tim. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you for joining. The technologies where we are today,
Yeah,
metaverse technologies, let's say,
yeah,
you connected it not to internet, not to the digital revolution, not to the industrial revolution. You connected it all the way back to the agriculture revolution. So I was like, boom, we need to talk a little bit more about that. So
yeah,
can you, do you remember what?
yeah. Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. I
please
think
tell me how do, like trace the journey for me.
trace the journey for you. Well, I think it's a very loose connotation, but at the end of the day, there is a natural progression, a natural movement from where we came from, um, to where we are, where we're heading. It's there are some similes and there are some orientations towards that. So, if you look back, 3000 BC, the tools we had, the environment we had, the systems we had, the types of power sources we had, and how that differs and how it's grown to the point where we are now. you know, Back in the day, you had an environment. There wasn't a lot of urbanization. People were like mostly in the lands. Uh, the power source we had was basically hands and ox, and that's basically it. And you had a sickle as an instrument or a machine, a tool. And the cycle was basically dependent on weather systems and these types of things. And you just fed your family and traded your stuff, and that's it. And and then you hit the first industrial revolution, where the sickle and the plow became more of a machine, and the hand power became more steam and water power, and production lines came into place, and urbanization happened, and people were streaming towards these machines and trying to make a living in a different way. And then it came the second industrial revolution, and we're looking at the power source changing from steam and water into internal combustion engines. And the tools stay pretty much the same, the machines stay pretty much the same. It's just they're more powerful, and we can travel further, and roads are built. So I think it's a morphing and a changing of the environment. First of all, the mechanisms or the tools we used, the power systems that we use to power these mechanisms. And then came the third industrial revolution, which is, the advent of the internet. Now these tools start to talk to each other and learn from what they've done and how to improve it and do it better, or we have at least from gathering data from it. And then, the the world has changed so much that you've come to the point where we're starting to remove the human again, from this integrated network, where we are using very reliable systems like, what Leica Geosystems sell, the autonomy spaces. We've got laser capture or laser scanning systems that almost transmutate reality into a digital reality. And it started happening with like BIM and CAD and these sort of things, where it's just a digital model. But I think we're moving into that space now, and we're talking about metaverses. And I quite like the analogy that one of your speakers had from the Deutsche Telekom, where we're talking about, and you always do that on your podcasts, and Mercer always does that as well, saying, what is the metaverse? 3 words, that type of thing. And I think he summarized it quite nicely. He said that you can use metaverse as a singularity, which is what everybody's talking about, the place where there will be virtual trade, virtual living, virtual communication, virtual avatar, virtual assets, these types of things. But you also have little small metaverses that are being built. And these things, and Hexagon or Leica Geosystems, they like to call that a smart digital reality. Because now it's moved beyond the space of just a CAD model or a 3D model. We're into the fourth industrial revolution. The landscape or the environment is not just physical anymore, it's now digital. We're moving away from the physical. We're letting the machines do the work. We're letting machines do the talking. We're bringing autonomy into the whole thing. We're doing repetitive scans of an environment, building out this digital version of what's happening in reality. But also, we've got these cyber physical systems feeding information into these models or these little metaverses, and that's running simulation and teaching us more about the physical world so that we can make decisions to not just to bring value or whatever it may be. Yes, value is part of it, but it's value, it's optimization, it's sustainability that we learn from these models in the digital world, and we then push that back into the real world. And that whole cycle, I think, to a long story, people that know me know I always take the long way around. But anyway, to answer your question, I think, there was a balance back in the agricultural days. It was sustainable. And I think we're talking about sustainability now with much better tools, much quicker information, more information, and transmutating reality into digital, running simulations, and having that balance is bringing a lot of sustainability into place.
Okay, let's look at this balance for a minute. The initial goal back in those 100,000 years ago was to remove the human from the path of the lion.
Yeah.
Then it was to remove the human from distress and work, physical work. Our goal today is to remove, like just recently, tell me what you think of this. I don't know if it's true or not. I saw an article where they're saying Apple is working on changing, you know how you have Hey Siri?
Yeah.
You say Hey Siri and then Siri comes up. They're working on changing Hey Siri to just Siri. If that's true, it's just a reminder that the whole goal from hundreds of thousands of years is just to remove work from human life. And the more we can call it automation, we can call it, really it's we want robots to do work. Is that the trend you see? That's where we're going?
Yeah, I think the way of work and the area of work is changing. Back in the day, the plow and the sickle and these types of things was very labor intensive, hard work, brute force. If you're a big guy, you can plow a lot of land, But I think moving into the space where we are now, we're using our heads more. It's an information age. We're making informed decisions. I was part of a webinar the other day where a very large engineering company is looking at parametric design and automating decision making on how to build buildings, so that they can free up the people that would normally be involved with that to make more value-based decisions. And I think that's if you look at the main drivers within our environment in our lives, it's time, it's money, so working less physically, spending more time thinking, and that thinking translating into value, sustainability, money. And I think that's where we're heading. I think that's where the majority of the work is. People are really thinking about things more, making decisions, because you've seen the massive onslaught of AI in the recent months. Everything's AI. AI can draw a cat playing a piano. AI can identify a small protein fold in 1 billion of a drop of blood, and these types of things. So, AI is going to be there as a tool, and that tool will help crunch a lot of numbers. But I think when it comes to the applicability, if that's a word, of the decision within the virtual or physical space, it's still going to be human dependent. And I think that's where the work is, people making decisions. Because if you look at the environment that we live in at the moment, from the first to the third industrial revolution, we haven't made very clever decisions looking at the planet. So I think we have to make a little bit more of a clever decision. That's where the work would lie, I would say. Yeah.
All right, cool. So then let me retrace this step now. So just because I love doing, and I haven't done this out loud, I have this in my head. So
Okay.
see if we can follow. First, we learned going from hunting and gathering and realizing that, hey, I can just stay here and plant seeds to eat. I don't have to run and chase other animals and be chased by them. I can just stay here and plant seeds. In order to do that, I need some tools.
Yeah.
I'll make some rudimentary tools and I'll just start farming.
Yeah.
And then notice the exponential curve, because that took 5, 8, 10,000 years.
Yeah.
And then the first industrial revolution, where I don't have to just use my hands, my physical labor anymore.
Yeah.
I actually made machines powered by steam.
Yeah.
On the same path. Now I have machines working. Next, I need to connect with other humans further away. I want to shorten distances. I want to close gaps.
Yeah. Radio, these types of things. Yeah.
Telegraph.
Telegraph. Yeah. Electricity.
So, roads, train lines, steel. All right. I'm going to make train lines. I'm going to make bridges. I'm going to make it, and then that leads to the combustion engine. I'm going to make cars. And now we're all connected physically. We can travel.
Yeah.
But that's not enough.
Yeah.
Next, we need to share information.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to invent the internet, because I need to know what everybody else knows.
Yeah.
I want to be able to read any book at any time written by anyone in history.
Yeah.
So now we have that. That's not enough. The next level, the current phase we're at, what you're saying is, now that all the information has been shared, now we have data. Now we have to process. Now we have all this information in one place.
Yeah.
How do we pull it, extrapolate the data from it?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the first time I've said that out loud. It kind of makes sense now.
Yeah, it does make sense. And I think if you want to simplify it and you want to remove the environment, the tools, the types of energy or power, so manpower, steam power, whatever, if you remove all of that and you look at it very simplistically, I think, back in the day, we had to do a lot of things to make something happen. It's a lot of hard work. Have to go a very long way to get something. Where we are now, from the comfort of our home, I'm in Nottingham, you're in Helsinki. We're talking about industrial revolutions and metaverses over pieces of plastic and rare metals and weird things through the internet right now. And so we don't have to go far to get information or knowledge that can feed us. So we don't have to we're trading on a different way now. We have all the information to trade and to talk about and to share, and that can be done locally. You don't have to go far to find that. And I think that's a big difference. We don't have to go far to have the learnings of a massive conglomerate that's built a building that's, and the learnings from that, and incorporate that into our AI to tell us to do a specific type of thing. So all this information, I think, has made life a little bit easier, but the decisions are still hard, I think. And you need to have a good understanding of why you make those decisions. But I think if you want to trace that little line, I think it's going far for very little, and now it's sitting still for quite a lot.
I don't understand. Explain that again.
So
what do you mean?
So going far, going to sell my wheat in a market that's like 5 miles away, or riding on a donkey, or learning how to make steel. I'm not a blacksmith, so I have to go far to find a new sickle or a new plow or whichever it may be. It was very difficult, and you had to go a long way to get very little in today's terms. Where in today's terms, we don't have to go far to get quite a lot. So I think that's the flip, or the progress that we've seen, or that I would have seen in
absolutely.
the space.
And like I said before, it seems like the goal has always been, if we reduce everything now, if we reduce it to just 2 steps, we become human. We want to stop all physical activity, it seems. So step 0 is become human. Step 1 is remove all labor, all physical labor. And we're still in the process of that, step 1.
Yeah.
That's where we seem to be heading. We want to reduce physical labor, autonomous driving, just
Yeah.
saying Siri instead of Hey Siri,
Yeah.
right?
Uh, yeah.
We're just trying to reduce labor in order to get to a place where
We
we
can
just
think more.
communicate
Yeah, I think
mentally.
it's probably not necessarily removing labor. I don't think we are a lazy species. Well, I'm not going to
I mean,
comment, but what are we?
lazy is not a negative word. If
No, it's not.
energy is conserved, we want to.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with wanting to conserve energy.
yeah. I think what how I see it is not removing labor. Um, the technology that we've built um, is so powerful and can do things so much quicker, better, more accurate than we can. Um, I think we're removing people from a job site because um, you're not going to miss that 75th pillar to check because it's a monotonous job. You haven't slept much. You've got a new kid at home. You're not sleeping at all. Or whatever it may be, it's a monotonous job. Human error. I think what we're trying to do is remove human error out of the equation so that
But
we can, yeah,
sure, if we
yeah,
want to reduce human error, then just remove human labor. Let the
yeah,
machines
that's it.
do it.
That's it. And I think that's what I'm getting at. Let the machines do it because they can do it better than us
Absolutely.
in specific instances. But I think the decision making
All
is still there.
physical things,
Yeah,
machines do better.
yeah, yeah. They don't go on breaks or take a lunch break or whatever. They keep on going, and that ups productivity, and output, which allows us to make quicker decisions, faster decisions. That's got a higher impact. So yeah, I think removing people out of that chain reduces error, makes it quicker, makes it more accurate, more reliable data. Once again, it filters down to the decision making.
I mean, I still remember parents and grandparents talking about, you kids and your remote controls. Why can't you get up and, like it's all been on this path of trying to remove physical work.
Yeah,
And I wonder where it's going to lead to.
I don't know.
Everything is about removing, it's
Yeah,
about what can you do with the minimum physical movement. Can I just,
yeah,
now we're talking about brain machine interfaces where
yeah,
I don't want to even press a button anymore. I just want to think it and I want it to happen.
yeah. Because you sure it will happen. Hopefully, if it's done correctly, more and quicker and faster and more accurate, and with more shortcuts than you actually picking up a remote and searching for a channel. No, I agree. It's weird on where it's going. It's exciting. I mean, I was born in a time where there were no cell phones. I was telling my daughters the other day about, if we didn't have cell phones, and they're like,
Same. Yeah,
they,
yeah.
they don't understand
They
that.
don't get it. They don't
They
get
don't
it.
they don't get it
I
because it's
try
part of
telling my
life.
kids that
Yeah,
like the concept of if you want to watch something, you have to know when it's going to be on and run to the TV and catch it, not just type it into YouTube.
exactly. I I've got this presentation that I normally talk about autonomy, and one of the advents of autonomy is having things remotely controlled. So first of all, we had some remote controls before we actually have autonomy where they can do and think for themselves. And that remote control, as you were talking about, I always make this joke that said my father invented teleoperated mechanisms back in the 80s when we were watching television by just flipping his hand to the back of my head and uttering a number. The TV would actually change channel by me
What?
by me getting up and going to change the channel to the number that was been said. So that's just a little joke, but it's moving in that way. We're moving away from being that hands-on um, hard labor, moving away into, I don't know, is it going to be just
But
a
you have to just say it. The trend tells us we're moving towards removing physical labor,
yeah,
and that's fine. But what's next? What do we want to do? We want to do mental labor. And then what happens another million years where we remove mental labor? What do we want? What do we want to do? So then, what? All right, this is go. I don't know if this is going to be in the episode, but I'd like to
Yeah,
just entertain this idea. If we continue it, and if we imagine it's a loop,
yeah,
because there are indications that we're trying to build. That's what the metaverse is. We're just trying to make a digital version of the physical world.
yeah.
So doesn't it follow that it's going to loop back around, meaning somebody's already built the world in which we are in right now?
Mm. So living in a simulation type of thing.
Doesn't that follow?
I don't know. I don't know. It's hard for me to swallow. Uh, I can't really see that. Maybe I just don't have the right information, but I don't get that, and I don't know how it would loop back. The only way
Be-
that I yeah
yeah, for me, it's just it's the most obvious thing. I just yeah, I just see because that's the trend we're going, right?
yeah
And it's we're trying to simulate everything.
yeah
If you just look at where video games were 40 years ago
yeah
to video games last year to
yeah
video games now, oh, we're obsessed with removing physical labor, number one,
yeah,
and creating worlds in which we can just worlds which are just operated by our minds.
which we can do anything basically.
Right.
Yeah,
So once we get there,
where
well,
do you from
does
there?
right. If
Yeah.
once we get there, then wouldn't that loop back to this is where we are? Aren't we already in a world that's created?
So we're living in our own metaverse. Um,
We're
I don't
living in
know,
somebody else's metaverse.
or somebody else's metaverse. I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of ethical, quasi-religious viewpoints that could probably counter most of these conversations. But I don't know. It's hard to understand. I think if we think about metaverse versus whatever you want to call it within the larger metaverse, I think at the moment there's a lot of factions um, in the space. You've got people that are very retail commerce driven. There are people that are very much entertainment driven, people that are information driven. But then you also have, emerging things like, construction, industry, moving into this metaverse space, intentionally or not, where they're actually, creating environments like large motor vehicle factories, optimizing these motor vehicle factories from a smart digital reality perspective. That's a metaverse in any way. So um, it's hard to say that it will be a complete reality and a complete immersive reality. I think it'll still fall within those spectrums for now. I don't know what happens after that. I don't want to give myself a nosebleed by thinking about it. Thinking about now, I like to call myself a realist. So, thinking about the here and the now, I think there's still a long way to go in a lot of ways to move into this metaverse. I think it will come, and I think it will be a big thing. And but yeah, it's still young. It's still emerging as what it is. I mean, if just look at some of the videos on LinkedIn, for instance, where people are asked what is the metaverse, you know, the answers are so varied. We haven't had that common tongue yet, where
Yeah.
we can say this is what the metaverse is. Like, what's a cell phone? This is a cell phone or smartphone, So we haven't gotten to that point yet. So, but we will. I'm sure we will.
We will. All right. Before we finish, I have to ask you the same question that I ask everyone. Do you have a one sentence definition of the metaverse?
A one sentence definition of the metaverse. Um, an interactive bits and bytes shop.
Wow. An
Uh,
interactive bits and bytes shop.
yeah. I think that's probably how I would say, if that makes sense. But yeah,
Great. I love
yeah,
it.
yeah, good.
So, I think this is a good place to end our philosophical discussion. We're going to have a more technical discussion
Yeah,
probably next week.
yeah.
But now I'm going to say, Matthew, thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Tan. I've enjoyed it going on a trip. Thank
I
you.
could do this all day.